Rocksteady's been forced to lay off over half of its QA team today due to the Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League abysmal performance with the community. All that and more coming from an article out of That Park Place. It reads, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, abysmal failure leads to mass layoffs at the developers Rocksteady. If you've been following Rocksteady or Suicide Squad and Sweet Baby Inc., this really is not going to come as a surprise to anybody. This is exactly what we expect when Sweet Baby Inc. gets involved. You know, they're soulless. They have no idea how to handle a story other than to push their DEI narrative, which essentially kills it. Now, I have my own theories on why it failed, why Suicide Squad fell apart. And I'll give an example later on in this video by comparing the Mr. Freeze that we grew up with the Miss Freeze that Sweet Baby Inc. wants you to love, like. And we'll continue with the article. It says, the abysmal failure of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has reportedly led to mass layoffs at the game developers Rocksteady. A report from Tom Phillips at Eurogamer claims that the company laid off over half of its quality assurance department, reducing it from 33 to 15. The report also claims that the layoffs affect those outside of quality assurance as well, and have affected individuals across the board from junior staff to individuals who have been with the company for over 5 years. Now, this is really sad because we know that these are the 9 to 5, the 8 to 4 workers who show up in the morning, they do what they're told, they're working for their paycheck, they're probably living paycheck to paycheck, they have no decision making and what upper management wants. I'm sure a lot of these developers, they just want the game to be good, and they probably wouldn't even make these decisions. But it's completely out of their hands, as their managers are the ones who decide ultimately what actually goes into the game. And so we continue. It says, a number of employees allegedly told the outlet that product quality will suffer as a result of the layoffs. Well, of course it will. You know, the hardest thing to learn when you are working for a company is company culture. And it doesn't matter how much experience you have or how good you are at your job. The hardest thing to do is to get inundated in that company environment, in that company's culture. And the best way to do that is to have senior staff, people who've been there for a while, really introduce you and teach you and show you the ropes of a company to help you kind of understand what's expected of you and the type of style and formats that that company wants from you. So when you're removing those people, when new people come in, there's really no one to look for. So you just have a bunch of new people that have no idea what's going on. And so you're going to get a very mixed result out of those employees. The performance of those employees you're just setting them up for failure. The performance is going to be bad. But we'll continue. The game did so poorly financially that Rocksteady's parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery, took a $200 million hit. On one hand, it's bad to hear that. And on the other hand, it's good because this is the type of lesson that Warner Brothers needs. They need a wake-up call that they need to stop listening to these DEI initiatives, especially companies like Sweet Baby Inc., of which we know that Sweet Baby Inc. just destroys everything, completely ruins characters, and just takes any fandom and turns it upside down and pits them against each other. They're completely destructive. And why they're still even in existence is beyond me. I'm surprised anyone continues to listen to them. Now, in the article, they go on to talk about the success of Hogwarts Legacy. The Suicide Squad's failure has essentially canceled that out, which is really sad because Hogwarts Legacy did phenomenal. It was a national, a worldwide phenomenon. It made over $2 billion. There's no stopping that Harry Potter train. And as someone who played Hogwarts Legacy, there was a little bit of wokeness in the game, but not too much. And it was great. I loved the game. It was a good game, and it deserved all the money that it made. And I'm genuinely excited for the next Hogwarts Legacy. But what's sad is Hogwarts Legacy really put Warner Brothers in a great position, a position of strength. And people really were looking forward to a lot of Warner Brother games coming out. And now all their goodwill has been essentially destroyed, evaporated with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, not to mention Multiverses, which that's its a whole nother thing. Great game they had. The beta and all that was perfect. Then Warner Brothers, they want to dip their hands into and just destroy that game as well. So now Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is costing them $200 million. And if we take 2 seconds and look at the current player count on Steam charts, we can see, as of the time of filming this video, that there's only 95 people playing the game. That's less than 100 people currently playing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I do not see this game lasting much longer, especially after we just seen what happened with Concord and Sony completely canceled that game, turned the servers off, and refunded everybody's money. I definitely see the same thing happening to Suicide Squad as less than 100 people. That's going to cost you more to run those servers than it is to actually keep them on. This game is definitely going offline, and it would be nice to get an offline mode. As I said, I did play this game. I'm a massive DC fan, and Batman is so important to me. Going through the game, I have to say that I enjoyed the loot system, and I understand that's kind of controversy with a lot of people because, I get it. You want Captain Boomerang to use boomerangs. You want King Shark to be King Shark, and you don't really want them to all have guns and weapons. I get that. But from a gameplay perspective, I have to say, as a massive Diablo fan, especially Diablo 3, I like the loot system. It kind of reminded me of Diablo 3, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But make no mistake, there was a lot of issues with the story, and I actually want to get into that. I want to give an example on why I think, or why I know, rather, why Sweet Baby Inc. just doesn't get it. And the best way to give that example is to talk about their most recent character, Miss Freeze. A character that they completely missed the ballpark on and have absolutely no understanding of the character. And the best way to get my point across, I think, is just to talk about Mr. Freeze and the character that we grew up with. Now, yes, I understand that I'm going to be referencing the Batman animated series, but in my opinion, I believe that the Batman animated series and the Nolanverse, or the Dark Knight trilogy, those combined, if you were to mold those together, you're going to get the Arkhamverse. The Arkhamverse is a perfect combination of the animated series with, the Dark Knight. And that's all the Batman Arkham games. Even Origin, that's an underrated game. Batman Arkham Origin is actually pretty good. So I wanted to talk about Mr. Freeze, or Victor Freeze is his real name, and how Sweet Baby Inc. just totally doesn't understand that character. That's a tragic villain, if there ever was a tragic villain. The Batman animated series, in my opinion, is the greatest piece of media that you'll ever watch, in my opinion. I just think that it is done perfect. Bruce Timm and Paul Dini were masterminds, and they created not just a show, not just a cartoon, but a story that will last forever, that you'll never forget. And Mr. Freeze is no different. Victor Freeze's story starts out as his wife gets a very rare blood disease that ultimately will lead to her death. And in an attempt to save her life, in desperation, Victor Freeze cryogenically freezes Nora. Now, this results to him taking a job at a mega corporation, GothCorp, in order to fund his research. And once the powers that be, upper management, discovers that he's using funding to save his wife, obviously they come in and shut it all down. And a very tragic event as well, which ultimately leads to the creation of Mr. Freeze. And there's not really a good way to do it besides just to kind of show you. And it's really sad. It's really hard to watch almost. So let's just show you what happens.
I created it for the express purpose of freezing subjects stricken with inoperable ailments. Subjects like my own beloved wife, Nora. Once a remedy has been found...
Open this door! Open it now! Get away from that equipment! Shut this stuff down.
Stop! This is my experiment!
Your unauthorized experiment. I ordered funding suspended weeks ago. I'm already $3 million in debt thanks to you.
You can't stop it now! My wife is in there!
I say this project ends now!
No! Stay away from her! Murderer!
Victor, I'm sorry. We can talk.
Oh! Oh! Nora! Nora!
Now, after these events, this is what ultimately leads Mr. Freeze to be completely changed, completely altered. His body permanently changed forever. He always has to remain at 0 temperatures or lower in order to survive. But effectively, Mr. Freeze is dead. He is now a corpse, a husk almost. He's just lifeless, can never touch, can never feel. He has no emotions and filled with rage and revenge for what everything that was taken from him, not just his life, but his experiments and his wife that he was trying to save. Now, over the course of events, Mr. Freeze comes to learn that Nora is alive. And when he discovers that Nora has not perished, he decides to dedicate his entire existence to saving her, the love of his life, the person that he cares about the most. And in Mr. Freeze's eyes, he will do anything, everything imaginable to save his wife, no matter what the cost is. He's not interested in money. He's not interested in power. He's not interested in fame. He's only interested in one thing: watching his wife breathe fresh, warm air one more time. Batman sees this. He understands that Mr. Freeze's condition is a result not of his doing, but the doing of corruption and greed. He understands that Mr. Freeze is not trying to hurt people. He's trying to save his wife. But if you get in his way, he will hurt you. He will do everything to save his wife. Now, what makes this story even more tragic is Mr. Freeze hates his condition. He feels that his condition is an abomination, a curse, something that he regrets, he wishes has never happened. And there's no better way to show you how Mr. Freeze sees himself other than to just let you listen to it from Mr. Freeze himself.
You're practically immortal, my friend.
Yes, eternal life trapped in this wretched shell. What a miserable joke.
Oh, miserable to you, but a godsend to me. I want to change as you have, to become, like you, a being of blessed eternal cold.
You're insane. You want to live like this, abandoned and alone, a prisoner in a world you can see but never touch. Old and infirm as you are, I'd trade 1,000 of my frozen years for your worst day.
Just listening to that clip, you can see that Mr. Freeze is very hurt. You can hear the pain in Mr. Freeze's voice. He has lost everything. He no longer wants to be Mr. Freeze. Everything that's happened to him has been a complete travesty. He's lost everything. But it doesn't end there. People want to exploit him. People want to use him. They want his power. So what do? They find his wife yet again, and they hold his wife hostage, threatening to end his wife if he doesn't do their bidding. Mr. Freeze has no choice but to listen to even more corruption and greed as they hang his wife's life in front of him. So now he's forced to do even more bad stuff that he just doesn't want to do. And he's open about it. He tells Batman, I have no choice. I can't stop it. I have to do this. And Batman understands. Batman gets the complexity behind Victor Freeze. He understands that everything he's went through and the reason why he's even committing these crimes is because he has no choice. He's saving his wife. Everything he does is for a reason. He's not insane. He's not greedy. He's a man driven by love and passion. He's so laser focused on his goal, he almost gives a Terminator feel of just lifeless, soulless, completely void of all emotion. But if you've been following the character, you know that that just isn't true. And Batman knows that. There's so much emotion behind Mr. Freeze. Everything he's doing is from the greatest emotion, love. And that's the complexity behind Mr. Freeze. You follow him and you feel for him. And so we get to Sweet Babies Inc., Miss Freeze. And what do? They just gender swap it, completely missing the point. And someone would say, well, what's wrong with gender swapping it? She could be saving her husband. But you're kind of missing the point there. If your only takeaway from hearing that story is why not just gender swap it? That's being made out of a lifeless decision for not understanding the story. You're chasing a goal. You're chasing a number. And we can see that number. We see it in front of our faces. We know that you don't understand the character, which is why you gender swap that character into Miss Freeze. And to further prove my point, just looking at the design of this so-called Miss Freeze, we can see so many flaws with this character. Before we even get into it, the character has a scarf. And people say, well, that's a minor complaint. No, it's a legitimate complaint. Mr. Freeze's body temperature has to be below 0, or he dies. Having anything on Mr. Freeze that would signify that they have to be warm is counterintuitive to the character themselves. And again, Mr. Freeze is extremely practical. Remember, he's not insane. He is a very practical man. His suit is designed to keep him below freezing. Having anything on his suit that would keep him warm is completely just stupid. Batman defeats Mr. Freeze by essentially opening up his helmet and exposing him to room temperature. That's how sensitive Mr. Freeze is to anything above freezing. Just exposing his helmet, cracking his helmet alone is enough to defeat him. As you can look at this design, you can see that the ABC colors are apparent. This is more important than the beautiful story that was laid out by Mr. Freeze. We have to hit our quota. We have to get our numbers. We have to find representation. What I don't understand is what is wrong with representing a married man. Mr. Freeze was a married man who did everything he could to save his wife. And as somebody like myself, as a man, I can look up to that and understand it. I don't need to see the bad side of Mr. Freeze, but I understand that need to protect, that need to save somebody's life, the life of a person that you care about deeply. Everybody can connect with that. Just gender swapping Mr. Freeze just clearly shows that you have no idea what the character is about. You don't get the passion behind the character and the complexities that Bruce Timm and Paul Dini did to the character in order to make that character feel so real. This feels hollow. This feels like you're chasing an empty number that doesn't exist. By trying to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. So it's no surprise when looking at this character design that they have no idea what they're doing. Of course, they threw a scarf on Miss Freeze. They don't know who Mr. Freeze is. They just see a guy that they can gender swap and say that it's better. Completely missing the point entirely. And someone like me and plenty of other fans like me who grew up with these characters, we are very upset because you're taking a character that means a lot to the story, that means a lot to Batman, and you've just ruined the character because it's more important to see, the ABC flag than it is to see a man try as hardest to save the woman that he loves. Which is really sad because there's plenty of women out there and men out there who want to see these type of stories. And you rob them of that by simply just gender swapping because this is better. And you know what's really funny is that Mr. Freeze's condition and what's happened to Nora Freeze, his wife, is a result of mega corporations only chasing profits and not caring about anything that's more about heart and passion. And that's exactly what happened with Miss Freeze here. This is a corporation who just wants to chase the money, chase the numbers on social media. And that's resulted in our Miss Freeze, which is literally the reason why Mr. Freeze is Mr. Freeze, because of mega corporation greed that led to the downfall of somebody who was just following their heart and passion. Now, that's my take on why I think that Suicide Squad, they took a bad turn with Sweet Baby Inc. I mean, there's a lot of other factors too that's put into the game. We'll focus on Harley real quick. I'm a huge fan of Harley. Obviously, I watched the Batman animated series. Again, it's the best form of media, period. Watch it if you haven't. I'm very happy that they went with Tara Strong. And actually, let me say that real quick. The voice actors of this game, you guys did phenomenal. There's nothing wrong with these voice actors. These voice actors killed it. And I would love to see more of them. They sold all the characters correctly. And I was so happy they went with Tara Strong for Harley Quinn. Because Harley needs that accent, right? She has to have the accent. And Tara is amazing. And Tara Strong is one of the greatest female actors and greatest voice actors to ever be. But with that being said, does DC have a Harley problem? A little bit. I think they kind of lost their way with Harley. I feel like Margot Robbie kind of killed that character, kind of made Harley a little overly sexualized. My opinion of Harley is that, she's a very strong-willed character with a lot of flaws with her personality that leads to her being taken advantage of by the Joker. And that's kind of sad to think of it that way. But this is the reason why Batman has to take a softer tone with Harley, because he gets it. He understands that she kind of got the short end of the stick with her upbringing and her childhood. So he tries to take a softer tone with her. But one of the things I feel like they've lost with Harley is they over-sexualize her. And I grew up with Harley being, the complete opposite. Like if you said something like that to her or tried to sexualize her, she would flip out. In fact, there's a perfect scene that summarizes exactly how Harley is if you try to sexualize her. So let's just play that.
Well, hello.
I think I'm in love.
Auga, ooga.
Excuse me, boys. Didn't your mommies tell you that's not the nice way to get a lady's attention?
Oh, and what are you gonna do? Spank us?
That's right, pigs. And here's the paddle.
Whoa!
You see, now that's the Harley I grew up with. That's the Harley that I know. With that being said, I thought they did a fantastic job with Captain Boomerang. Captain Boomerang is actually one of my favorites. Flash is definitely one of my most favorite heroes, favorite characters, period. And Captain Boomerang, he doesn't get a lot of love. And I really enjoyed this Captain Boomerang. I think they did a fantastic job with this version of Captain Boomerang. And I would love to see this Boomerang a little bit more. In fact, when I was playing the game, I remember my chat drew the comparison of Junkrat and Boomerang. And you know what? Yeah, I see it. Absolutely. I think that those two characters are one and the same. In fact, I kind of want a Captain Boomerang skin for Junkrat in Overwatch. I think that would be perfect. But that's kind of my take on it. I feel like this whole DEI initiative is just destroying games. They just completely lose track of what matters, what's important. When it comes to the future of Warner Brothers and really any studio, they really need to step away from DEI, because DEI is not there in the story development part. Maybe if they're there from the beginning and it's being created, but we already know what that's like. Look at Dustborn, if you need any example on that. When it comes to established IPs, these DEI groups, they do not understand the community. They do not understand the fans. They do not understand these characters. And you just need to let these guys go. Do not engage with them. Avoid them at all costs, especially Sweet Baby Inc. I've heard that Rocksteady has a new Arkham game in development, so hopefully they've learned their lesson. Hopefully they learned not to listen to people like Kim Belair, and hopefully they'll just focus on writing a good story that takes place in the Arkham universe. But what do you guys think? Did you guys play Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League? Did you watch it? Do you guys have any opinions on it? What do you think about the future of the Arkhamverse? Do you want Rocksteady to keep making games, or would you prefer them just to completely stop? Because that's all I got for you guys today. And honestly, it's probably more than what you asked for. If you laughed, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. And if you didn't, laugh anyway. I'm Shane Games. Have a beautiful night, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
I've done what you wanted. Now leave me alone with my wife.
Suit yourself.
You can't let Walker do this. Billions of people will perish.
That's not my concern. All that matters is I once again have my wife and the means to restore her.
She'll wake up in a dead, frozen world that you helped destroy. She'll hate you for that.
Silence.
You think you're alone now? Wait until she learns the truth.
I said silence!
Ah!